to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Lorianne Casdia, and we're here with our co-host today, Vince Perrotta. Say hello, Vince.
Hi there. Good afternoon.
Our goal here at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, educate, and empower you to fulfill a healthy, emotional, spiritual, and physical life so you can feel empowered to live the life you have always wanted and dreamed. And of course, with Vince here, you know you're going to laugh a lot because that just comes with the territory with him. And today we're going to light you up with some verbal caffeine and possibilities. How are you, Vince?
I'm doing really well, thanks. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really well. It's a beautiful day, and just inspired. Always inspired when you're on the show.
Thanks. It's always a lot of fun to be here. It's funny. I was thinking today is the perfect day to just maybe cut out a little bit and spend a little extra time having a little more fun than a little more work.
But, I like that.
Well, somebody's got to be responsible for what goes on here. So
I love responsibility. You know that we talk about 100% responsibility.
see, I've heard that expression, 100% responsibility. And I kind of am in the camp that responsibility is split, right? It's never really 100% responsibility. Why would you say that?
Because it is. You're 100% responsibility to what you do. We're not talking about responsibility of other people. They're 100% responsible for, or should be, for what they do and say. And we're 100% responsible for what we do and say. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but I can't control other people's behavior. I can't control the randomness of things that happen, right? So
no.
How can I have 100% responsibility? There has to be some percentage of responsibility because it's outside my control.
So let me, and I love that you say that. It's not about out of your control because everything you control is within your power, right? It's because just by the statement, everything you can control, right? So let's just say there's an equation that I utilize for demonstrating 100% responsibility. So event plus your response equals the outcome, right? So if we have an event, whatever that event is, and we respond one way, the outcome is going to be one way. If we have an event and respond a different way, the outcome is probably going to be different, right? Most likely.
Great.
So to give an example of that, and where in the E, it's an equation called E plus R equals O. And I want everybody to write it down. E plus R equals O. Where in that equation is your responsibility? 100%.
Okay, so let's take a little example. I'm driving on the highway and cruising along, and I want to get in the lane next to me. The guy's not letting me in, so I accelerate really fast, right? So now I'm trying to get in front of him, and I go to get, now that person pulls up. So now I might or I might not wish them a nice day in a very nice way.
So wish them number one, okay.
Right, but so I'm agitated. I'm going to have a response to that person, right? I mean,
but your response was earlier than that, Vince. So the event was you wanted to change lanes. You wanted the opportunity to move in the other lane. Your response was, okay, I'm going to get aggressive and I'm going to speed up to try to get in front of them. What could have been a different response?
Could have gone faster.
Could have gone faster.
No, I got
or
I could have slowed down a little bit, let that guy pass me, and then kind of eased in a little bit behind them.
So then if you had done that, as opposed to speeding up and getting aggravated and maybe showing them that they were number one, what would be the outcome of you letting that person get in front of you and you got behind him or her?
It probably would have saved a level of frustration for sure.
Right.
Aggravation.
So E plus R equals O, where your point of power is your response. So I'll give an example of that. I used to, and I know you're going to find this odd, but when my son Nick was living at home before he went away to college, we would have this dance every Saturday. I don't know about you when your kids were living at home, but I know for a fact I put a rug in his room. I couldn't tell you what color it was because I never saw it anymore because his stuff was all over his room. And I'm kind of a neatnik. So I like everything put away and nice. I know you find that odd, but I am. I saw your face. The listeners can't, but that wasn't nice.
Like a really nice shelf that's behind you that is so meticulously laid out with everything in its place.
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, moving on. So he had his stuff all over the room, and it was so upsetting to me. It really would stress me out. And every Saturday we would, clean the house, lighten up the house, make sure it was taken care of, put things away, do the laundry. And the laundry I would fold all nice. I'd give it to him and it'd end up all over the floor, all over his bed, wherever it was that he put it. It was very stressful. So every Saturday we would have this dance where I would get aggravated. I would say, clean up your room. And he would sit there continuing to play his game or read a book or whatever it was that he was doing. And I would go back to cleaning my room and I would start like talking to myself. Also not odd, but I would be aggravated. Why can't he clean his room? I don't understand why he's being so disrespected. I feel disrespectful. I felt very disrespected that he wouldn't do that. And I didn't understand it. And, it's just like he lives in a clean home and everything's put away. I don't understand why his room is this way. So I would go on and I would be aggravated, and then he would be aggravated because I was aggravated. And then we would start our day and maybe go out east, and we were both like really rigid and cranky. And one day I decided, you know what, has to be a different way for me to respond to this. So I went down the hallway and I just said, I'm just going to close the door, because if I don't see it, I can't get as aggravated by it. It's going to exist anyway. I can't change this. So the only thing I could do was change my response. So I closed the door so I couldn't see it when I was walking down the hallway. I went back to my room and I started putting my stuff away from the week. And what happens is he comes to the door and he's like, what the heck? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, what was that about? And I said, I just don't want to see it. If that's how you want to live, God bless. Godspeed. I don't want to see it. As long as there are no bugs, whatever. And I just left it at that. And he literally stood there and stared at me. So 3 outcomes came from that. One is I wasn't self-talking. I wasn't ramping myself up. I wasn't getting aggravated myself. 2 is, and this was the unintentional outcome, which happened, which was a good surprise. I went down the hallway. Suddenly he's picking stuff up. What the heck? Had I thought about this response earlier, it would have been a lot easier. And 3rd is, and happy to say, I found out and discovered the color of his carpet was blue before he moved on to college, because I knew that eventually when he moved to college, I would discover that there was in fact a rug there and it was blue. So we had 3 really nice outcomes because I changed my response. So the event was he wasn't cleaning up his room, and that was me having him do something that I wanted, that he did not want to do. And it wasn't life, threatening or anything like that. I changed my response and received a different outcome. That makes sense?
It does. So essentially it's when we face life, I guess the thing to think about is it's very reflexive to say, this is what someone did to me. And I think a little bit as I'm listening to you, maybe the real thing is, what did I do to allow this situation to happen? Right. Mm-hmm. Maybe that gives me the opportunity, because I can be responsible for what I do, and maybe controlling what I do. While I get the responsibility, I also get the better outcome that I'm looking for.
Yeah, you can, as long as you're doing what you want for you. So, you go someplace and I walk into the room, I can't expect everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be happy. Vince, you will be happy today. That's what I want. That's the only reason why I'm going to have a good day. If you're not happy, you're going to make me have a bad day. That's not going to be good. That's not really an inspired thought process, right? That expectation is not something that's really going to be achievable. What can be achievable is how I come into it. And the same thing with this example is I was expecting him to do something I wanted, and I was getting upset because he decided he didn't want to do it. I changed my perspective, so it no longer bothered me. I found a way that allowed him to do what he needed to do. And really, was it really affecting me, other than it wasn't clean the way I like my room cleaned? Right?
So, and I get your point. So I guess we should take a step back here.
Yeah.
And say, how do you define, because I want to understand that from you, how do you define 100% responsibility? Because you give me a couple examples, but let's put some parameters around this.
Yeah. So the definition basically is that E plus R equals O. It's what's in your control. That's your PowerPoint. It's 100% responsibility is what's in control. And taking action to just look at what is my responsibility. I used to take on other people's responsibility. I'm responsible to how I react to the event. I'm responsible to what choices I make to the event. And that R in that equation is really the important element of finding that huge, oh my gosh moment, right? So there was no blame in it. So when we're not taking 100% responsibility, you'll recognize it by this. This is the equation you're going to look for too. Am I blaming something? It's not the weather's fault. It's not my son's fault. It's not my family's fault. It wasn't that my mother didn't speak nice to me when I was young. None of that. You're not blaming the government. You're not blaming. It's whatever's within your power. And we have to look at what's actually in our power. And so many times we confuse that with people doing what we want.
So it seems like you're actually talking, because what I need is a way to determine how do I gauge, right, what that responsibility is. What is it that I am taking responsibility for?
Yourself and the reaction to what's happening. So in your example, you determined that you wanted to get over into the left lane. I'm assuming you were moving left. I don't know why. That's the visual I got. You want to move into that lane, and the other person said, "Oh hell no, you're not doing that. I'm going to move up, and I'm going to be not nice, and I'm not going to be a good community member and allow you in. And I'm gonna block you out because you're going to stay there because that's the only power I have in my day. So I'm going to be cranky about it." And then you got cranky about it because you wanted to get in there. So now you play that little game, and now you're all agitated. I'm sure that they went on with their life and they were perfectly content and they felt like they won one. That's okay. But we could have avoided all that escalated emotional attachment by just taking responsibility of our choices and change our choice to, okay, is this really important? Does this really matter in the span of my day? Or can I just get behind them? Does it really matter? So it's just that shift of, all right, here's the event, and does it really matter? Somebody speeds up and cuts me off. Am I going to like yell at them for the next 5 miles? Probably in the past I would have. And I might have sped up and tried to chase them down. Maybe in the past, that's the New Yorker in me. Oh, really? Bring it. But now does it really matter if it takes me a few more minutes? If somebody's in that much of a rush, just go ahead, go in front of me. How I look at it now is, go ahead in front of me because you'll probably save me from getting into an accident, or by that mere motion from getting a speeding ticket or anything like that. And that small delay is not going to really change my life or change my day. Make sense?
It does make sense. So let's kind of focus in on the fact that this is obviously healthy lifestyles, right?
Sure.
In a healthy lifestyle, if I'm trying to take 100% responsibility, and being the perennial dieter and workout person that I am, in lieu of saying, I don't have the time because work is too demanding, or I can't do this because I can't watch my diet because I go out. What's that?
Those are just excuses. They're justifiable excuses.
They're my excuses.
Having you not, I know you like your excuses, don't pout. Those are justifiable excuses that are telling me you are not taking 100% responsibility, because that's not why. Because if you could, you would. So you're really saying can't, and can't really means won't. Can't is an excuse. Won't is you're taking responsibility. I won't work out today because I'm choosing not to make the time for it. Different statement, right? That's 100% responsibility. That's taking 100% responsibility of what you're doing. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't like saying won't because it sounds so aggressive. But can't is almost a victim verbiage, right? Whereas won't is a statement of fact. It kind of goes back to what, Anthony's my partner. And he said something when we first started seeing each other, which was annoying as all could be to me. And now to me is the most brilliant statement in the world. So what the statement was is, that doesn't work for me. What? What do you do with that? That doesn't work for me is a hard stop. Won't is a hard stop. No, I won't do that. It's a hard stop. There's nowhere you could go from that. Can't is, I can talk you into it. Can't? Oh, you can. Oh, you can go to workout. Come on. If I go with you, you could go, right? So now you can, right? So we're changing that, but that doesn't work for me. Doesn't imply what I want to do is bad or not a good idea, right? It just says, I don't want to do it. It
So
doesn't
you're
work for me.
taking you're taking the judgment component out of it,
Yeah.
basically just making it kind of more down the road, just that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, that doesn't work for me, but God bless you, go, Godspeed, have fun. So like in your example, that didn't work for the person who was driving next to you who decided to not let you in. It didn't work for him to let you in. So because it didn't work for him, you had to make a different choice, but you still had a choice. You could have sped up and tried to get in front of the guy in front of him, and why do I assume it's a him? I don't know, but you could have gotten in front of them. Or you could have just fell back a little bit and got behind him. So there are other choices without the blame and without excuses. And when you're not in 100% responsibility, you utilize those cards: blaming, excuses. Blame is an excuse.
It
Right?
is right. They're all excuses essentially, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think in looking at it from the perspective that you're taking our responsibility in lieu of saying, well, you did this to me, and I had this reaction to you, but you're essentially suggesting that from your definition, the reaction is what it is that I control, and that's how I make myself responsible and take control. And so to go back to the suggestion I had, I'm trying to watch my diet. I want to, live healthy. Well, that's great, except I'm going out to dinner. Well, how do I take control? Make a good, healthy choice at dinner. Skip dessert and just have coffee. Right?
Yeah.
You could still go out, still be social, still enjoy the company. Right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So it's all about choices. It kind of goes to my chapter in Women Who Dream, two choices. There are literally only two choices if you're taking 100% responsibility. Do it or don't do it.
Right.
Go or stop. Stuck or unstuck. There's only two choices. We complicate it and we mask it because we really don't want to say what we really mean. If we would just say what we really mean and everybody, didn't take everything personally, it wouldn't be a big deal. Oh, okay, you don't want to go? Cool. Next time. That's a
most people. So, not to interrupt you, but that's a great point. You're trying to kind of yes or no, go or no. People play the middle, right?
Yeah, it's
I'd
easy.
like to do this. Let me think about it. I'm not sure if I can. I think I might.
Ooh, I wish I could.
Sounds great, but I not my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, which is an answer you would give because you too take responsibility. You're more of a, hey, no, it's not really my thing, but you have fun. I'm gonna step out on this one. Maybe we can do blah blah instead another time. Or maybe we can do something another time. That is where you're taking responsibility of your life and your responses. You're being transparent in a way that's being kind too. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be, beat him with a bat, and you don't have to be unkind, but you can also take a position. And being wishy-washy, staying in the middle, that's just a bunch of excuses. They're justifiable excuses that make it easier. People hide behind that and say, well, I didn't want to be mean. I want to be nice. Well, you could be nice and still say that doesn't work for me.
And I want to capture that for a minute, because people sometimes use the excuse that to be brutally honest. You do not need to be brutally honest. You can be honest without being brutal. And you're answering and taking responsibility. You can answer in a nice way and be direct. You can be clear, right? Brutality doesn't necessarily have to go along with honesty.
Yeah. I think that's an expression, brutally honest. It's just that means that somebody's giving you an answer you don't want to hear. Think about it. That's another excuse, being brutally honest. It's like, well, can I tell you the truth on this? No, lie to me. I like it. Why even use that expression? It's a terrible, horrible expression. I was like, why, have you been lying to me? Is my reaction. I'm like, what? Oh, you want to be honest with me now because you haven't been in the past? So there are expressions that we use that we need to really be mindful of the language that we use. Not from a sensitivity point, but from a clarity point. Right. Just think if we were clearer, we were more direct and stopped being wishy-washy, sitting in the middle. That's taking the easy road. And that goes back to the blame game. Oh, it's the government. Oh, it was my teachers. Oh, it was my parents. Oh, it's my spouse or my partner. Oh, how about you taking some responsibility? If we take, and here's the challenge. If you took 5% more responsibility on a daily basis, do you think you would see more success?
Absolutely. It's all taking it on and saying yes.
Yeah. And that's the important part, is now we're taking a moment to recognize what part we play in everything, as opposed to looking to point to everyone else. Now we're not blaming everybody else. We're part of the game. All of us are part of life, and all of us are in this together. And we keep talking about them. Who is them? It's you. It starts with you and ends with you. Gandhi says change happens starting with ourselves. So that change, going within ourselves and looking at how we're looking at life and working in life and interacting in life, changes everything on a different, it's just a different game. It's a game changer.
I think that part of that 100% responsibility is when you take responsibility, you are taking the outcome on yourself. And if you don't know the outcome, there's probably a level of fear in there. Or if you do know that the outcome was, the result of your behavior or your actions, then again, now I'm dealing with failure. And that, I think folks have a hard time with that. That's what makes them, I'm not responsible for this.
Yeah, well, it gives them arms off. It's that wishy situation. It gives them justifiable excuse, right? So we're going to come back. You're listening to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. We're going to continue this conversation with our co-host, our great friend, Vince Perrotta. And we're going to just take a quick break, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Coach Lorianne. And if you'd like to be a guest, lift up your business or product or non-for-profit, please send us an email at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. Or if you have questions or comments and you just want to chat with us, we love talking to you all. It's again, healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. We're here having this great conversation about taking 100% responsibility. I love this conversation. I love this topic. It's something that I speak to with all of my clients, taking that 100% responsibility with the wonderful, amazing Vince Perrotta. Love having you on, Vince. So where did we leave off? We left off at...
I was asking you a little bit about, I think one of the things that people have is a bit of trepidation, because if I take 100% responsibility, there's a level of fear that goes in with that, because if the outcome isn't good, right? If there's failure involved, I took 100% responsibility and now I failed. And that feels uncomfortable as a human.
Oh, yeah. Because our schooling system in the United States and our culture looks at failure as a bad thing. You failed the course, you failed this, you failed that. I'm going to hopefully change your lens on failure. Failure is actually an opportunity. Success, we've already accomplished it. Failure is an opportunity to learn something, change it, and be successful at it, right? So if we look at failure as an opportunity, it doesn't feel so bad, right? It's a mindset. All of this is mindset. 100% responsibility is mindset, having a different mindset about how we show up in the world, how we show up for ourselves. So failure is not a bad thing. It may be in school because it's a grading system and stuff like that, but in life, it's not, unless we don't learn from our failure and try to make some changes to see how we can turn that failure into a success. And I kind of do this with the word fail. Fail is, if you take the I, and I learned this from Lisa Nichols, if you take the I and you give it a little foot, it's fall. And failure is an opportunity to fall forward. It allows you to move forward and learn from your mistakes. Now, I know somebody who would repeat that same mistake over and over and over again. And I will guarantee you, universe, God, source, however your higher power is you're supposed to learn that lesson. You're going to keep failing until you do something different. It's almost like the Groundhog Day effect. Where it's same day doing the same thing, you're going to get the same result. And if you ever watch the movie Groundhog's Day for this specific context, watch that movie if you haven't, because it shows you as he adjusted how he responded, he got different outcomes, and he was trying to manipulate the outcome to be a certain outcome, and his goal changed as he changed his response. So if you ever watch that, he was manipulating how he responded, and he was getting a better response, and he was getting a better outcome. And so that's what we can do in life. We can change how we respond. So if we normally respond like a crazy lunatic, maybe if we responded calm, maybe you get a different outcome. Now, sometimes us with the Italian hand talking and the Italian, energy, we sound like a lunatic all the time. Even when we think we're calm, it reads as crazy. So, and that's okay. I know that in my
I don't know
culture.
what you're talking about. So just relax.
Just relax. Yeah, I love that. So yeah, I understand that form of falling forward. Does that make sense to you?
I do, and it's kind of interesting because as I was listening to you, what came to my mind is you think about when you were a kid and you had to go, you're part of whatever sport you played, and for my daughter, if you were a young woman in dance, right, there was all those classes and practices, and you went and you went and you went. So you did the same thing over and over again. And I was thinking about all the, pardon me, but all those failures in the class.
Yeah.
Right, where you made the wrong step, you made the wrong play, you weren't hitting the ball, whatever it was. All those things were failures that allowed you to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I guess that helps you get over that responsibility. So when you are in the actual performance or in the game or whatever it was that you chose to do, all those failure, and I'm purposely calling them failures, though they weren't, but all
those misses.
Right. It gave you the opportunity to perfect what you're doing, and it carries over to business.
Oh, yeah. So these principles carry through life. You use the word wrong. None of our choices are wrong. They just end in a different outcome. So there are consequences for decisions, right? So there are consequences. If for your daughter, for example, when she was doing those dances and she was in the practice, there was a certain outcome they were looking for, a certain step at a certain time they were looking for. Yes. So that's what made, when she didn't achieve that, that's what made it wrong or a failure. But it wasn't bad or wrong because she knew that it wasn't what they were trying to achieve. It wasn't what they were trying to accomplish. And what happened was over time and repetitiveness, they finally got there, or ultimately got there. So there's the success in it. And I'm not being, perky poly positive here. I'm being honest. If we're being kind to ourselves, this is bad talk that we talk to ourselves, that we learn how to talk to ourselves because we hear these words failure and fail and it's wrong and it's right or wrong. And there's no such thing. You're always doing exactly what you're supposed to do. So look at it this way. Had she not taken those missteps, she wouldn't have practiced as much, right? In order to get her where she was, to get to the point where the teacher said, this is what the choreography is, and this is where we'd like you to achieve. And the reason being is the teacher knew that once she achieved these dance steps and these orders, this beautiful dance would be performed, right? And then from those skill sets that she learned, she was able to do higher skill sets. So was it really wrong that she was having those missteps? No, she was learning. And that's how we get good at things. We learn. Look at the basketball player who was refused by his coach in his school. And they said, yeah, no, you're not making the team. You're terrible. And they were like, oh, heck no. And they went home and they practiced and practiced and practiced. And when they came back and tried out, they got on the team and now is one of the best basketball players in the world.
Well, and that's to that point. It's that repetition. It's that, let's go back to that word. It's that responsibility that you take for your performance and for yourself. And you make a different decision. You could quit, right? You could say that the coach is, coach not giving me a shot.
Blame.
Standing in my way.
Blame.
Yeah, I play with other players. I'm on an offensive line, and I keep getting called for a penalty, but it's because my teammates are not giving me
Blame.
The block that I'm supposed to get in order to, there's always, like, you can always look for somebody else. You keep saying blame, and I'm glad you did, because that's exactly what all of that is.
They're excuses, blame, excuses. It's the same thing.
All the same.
Yeah. As
like
opposed
and it's like that in business. I think that's the carryover. That's the codicil. We can use that learning in business.
Yeah. So look at this. And this is right out of my life, literally. And I've spoken about this, I don't know on this show, but I know I've spoken about it before. But a great discovery that I came up with was in a big failure that I had, right? So I'm sitting there on a Wednesday afternoon folding laundry, making justifiable excuses to myself that this is an important thing I have to finish because it's for my family, right? So I'm folding laundry and I'm like, why am I doing this? Because I'm telling you, Vince, hot pins in my eyes. I don't like doing folding laundry. I don't like it. I pay anybody. I can't tell you how much just to do it for me. I don't like it. So anyway, I'm there doing that justifiable excuse. And I sat there and was like, why am I doing this in the middle of the week on a Wednesday when I should be working in my office right now? And what I concluded was, what am I avoiding? So when I'm doing something that's an excuse, a justifiable excuse, what am I avoiding? Am I avoiding taking responsibility? Am I avoiding taking action? And I was avoiding, in that circumstance, I was avoiding making a phone call. And I was fearful of the result. I was fearful of a rejection. So I was doing anything else but make that phone call. And I couldn't do anything else relative to that work until I made that phone call, because that phone call was the next step. But it was big for me. It was important to me. And I was like, if I delay this, then I won't get the no. But that doesn't change the answer. A no is a no day one or 2.5 weeks later that I was sitting there folding laundry. Right. And so I forced myself to take action, go up to my office, make that phone call. And after 2.5 weeks of agonizing myself and distracting myself and making justifiable excuses and thinking all the worst case scenarios, it was an easy yes. They were like, yeah, sure. Which was annoying to me because I had spent all that time, with all the things, all the reasons I could give them for doing it with me. And I didn't have to use one of them.
But it was fear of failure.
Fear of failure, fear of rejection.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, if you think about it, your fear of failure precluded you from doing that, which not only stopped you from that specific activity, but it delayed you doing all the other things that were in your day, even if that thing was a failure, right? If you said, I made this call, it didn't work out, I got to figure out something else, but I'm going to go on to the other tasks. There were other productive things that would have made your day very valuable, but that one thing held you back.
Yes, but for the fact that from that, I started analyzing some of the things in my life and I came up with the Super Bowl syndrome. I found all the symptoms for a Super Bowl, and I call myself a Super Bowl all the time. And Super Bowls, when you bounce them, they look like they're a hot mess, right? But if I took this Super Bowl and I threw it directly to you, would it get to you?
Oh, of course not.
No, of course it would, because I'm throwing it directly to you. Well, maybe not through the.
I'm sorry, right now, no.
No, right now, no. It would be a hell of a
But if you threw it, yes, you would. I'm sorry.
Because you're far away from me. But if we were in the same room, I should have specified that. That's on me. I take full responsibility for that. If we were in the same, 100%.
All right, we're in the same room. Yes.
If we're in the same room and I throw it directly to you, will it get to you?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the same thing. If we stay in our zone of genius, we will get things accomplished. Had I just stayed in my zone of genius, the no was a no day one. It didn't change anything over the 2.5 weeks, and the staying in the zone and having that fear. And let's talk about fear. Fear, to me, is interchangeable with the word stress. You hear people use that term, overuse that term all the time now. Oh, I'm so stressed. I'm so stressed. What are you stressed about? Well, I won't be able to make my bills. That's fear. What are you stressed about? Give me some examples of things you'd be stressed about.
Deadline that I need to meet for getting a particular project completed.
Okay. And what would happen if you didn't get that project completed on time?
I disappoint a client.
Yeah. Okay. And isn't that equate to fear?
Yeah, there's the level of fear, and that creates stress.
Yeah, and it does. So fear and stress are interchangeable terminology.
Right.
So everybody being stressed out is they're worried about an outcome. So what can you do to reduce your stress and reduce your level of fear? Where's your power? Your point of power is in your response. So if I'm worried about hitting that deadline, then I need to work on it now so that I do hit the deadline. So I have to change that. So instead of spending all this energy worrying about hitting it, why don't you just work on it?
But that is exactly, therein lies the key. That's the critical component. And we in the end, we have no choice, right? We have to face it. So why not take it on right from the beginning?
Always two choices, though, Vince. I'm going to correct you on that. There's always two choices. If you don't hit it head on, you're going to continue having all that stress and that fear. If you do rip off the Band-Aid and hit it head on, doesn't the fear and the stress go away because you're getting it accomplished?
Right.
So it acts as an excuse. Oh, I have all these things to do. Okay, put them in priority order and let's start attacking them one by one, right?
That's why it's funny you say that, because I'll take it to a simple thing. Sometimes there's something coming up that you have, and you have so much anxiety or stress up to that moment. You get through that moment and you just feel you feel yourself, you're like, all right, I'm much better now, right?
Yeah.
What was the difference between 5 minutes ago and 5 minutes later? It was really how you processed and what you controlled.
Yeah, I know this answer. It's called having
Tell
it.
me.
I got it. I know this answer. We are typically thinking things catastrophically. Oh my God, it's going to fail. Go back to that word failure. It's not going to happen in time. Back to failure. Fear of failure. All of that stress is leading up to, what if it doesn't look this way? What if the day doesn't plan out this way? What if she or he is not happy with this? It's fear of failure. So why don't we shift our mindset and think anostrophically, like, this is going to be great. And I'm going to enjoy however this turns out. So a bridezilla is a great catastrophic type person who is trying to control freak every second of what's going to happen on her day of the wedding, which she has zero control over, by the way, because the weather's going to be the weather, and the people who show up are the people who show up, and the people who don't show up are the people who aren't going to show up. And if everybody has fun or doesn't have fun, it has nothing to do with you, because you are giving them everything they possibly can do to have fun. That's on them. That's not on you. But instead of being that way, if you could just anostrophically go through and think anostrophic, which is a positive way, that this is going to be a great day, and whatever happens, and the people who show up are the most important people. Sometimes, and I know I've done this, it's like, oh, I have a house full of people, I'm so excited, but Vince never showed up, bastard. He just decided not to show up. And I'm having a terrible time, because all I'm doing is thinking about Vince not being there. But what am I doing? I'm not paying attention to the very people who did show up. And Vince might not have been able to be there for a very good reason, but now I'm putting myself all through this inner dialogue, which is not nice to myself or to Vince, because I'm upset that he's not showing up. So we need to really dig down and what is really the thing that's bothering us? What is really the thing that's stressing us out? Does that make sense to you, Vince?
It does make sense, because
it looks like you're stressing out over this. So I didn't mean.
Well, no, I was just going to say that I can understand, like, if I didn't show up to the party, why you would be that focused on it, because it would change the tenor. But that's a
Oh, for God's sake. It really would. You are the center of attraction always, my friend.
But with that, no, but that's true. Is if we dig down just a little more and we kind of recognize, but I think that fear keeps you at the superficial level, and it keeps you backing away from facing really what is the reality of what needs to be faced.
And fear is keeping you back from failure, which is the yumminess of finding new success. Without that failure of me, spending that 2.5 weeks beating the crap out of myself and thinking all these worst things, had I not done that, and had I just called them day one, I wouldn't have put myself through all that. I also wouldn't have discovered the Super Bowl syndrome. But that's the yumminess. And so sometimes, or all the time, failure is a great opportunity to get us closer to success. And that fear is what holds us back from just trying things out. Listen, I feared getting on my motorcycle and taking a ride up with a group of people, because I'd never done it before and I didn't know what to expect. So anticipation is what's causing that catastrophic thinking, which is holding us back from just enjoying life and trying it. What's the worst that can happen? Right? What's the worst? And I want you to think that's the catastrophic thinking. What's the worst that can happen? I drop my bike and it doesn't drive anymore. I throw it in a truck and I send it back home and I sell it. Worst thing that can happen. I could get into an accident. Absolutely. But with the training that I had, I took the steps to have proper training, so I didn't have that kind of an accident, and I was being aware. So yeah, there are really opportunities for catastrophic things to happen, but if we are being mindful of them and prepare, then we shouldn't have the opportunity to have those catastrophic things happen. So if I'm on the top of a building, I do this thing called the skyscraper exercise. But if I'm on top of the building and the building doesn't have rails, do you think I'm putting my toes at the end of that building? Especially if you're up there with me, I wouldn't give you the opportunity to push me off. Not to say you would do that. I'm only joking.
Not to say that I would.
Not to say you wouldn't. There are days I'm sure you want to.
Anticipation is making me laugh.
See what we did there, folks? That's awesome. But this all makes sense. See how it interconnects, and it goes back to taking 100% responsibility. And I'm going to leave you with another little tidbit. And I love this, is it's called green hair. And if I said to you, Vince, oh my gosh, I love your green hair, what would you say to me?
I probably would ask, what are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you probably think I was a little batty because inside you don't have green hair. And I insist you haven't green hair. So you may want to prescribe, some medication for me. Who knows? But the reality is it's not what I say to you. It's what you say to yourself when I stop talking. That's 100% responsibility. You know who you are inside. If it hurts your feelings or makes you feel uncomfortable or disengaged or upset, you start feeling these negative emotions. Maybe we touched a nerve about how you really think about yourself, or touched a nerve on what you're sensitive to because of how you feel about yourself. And if we all would go inside, which sometimes we all have to do, it's like, ooh, why did those words hurt so much? Maybe I have to look at something within myself. If we go inside and look within ourselves, we're going to find out what it was that really was setting that emotion off, that made me feel oversensitive or sensitive to what you were saying to me. That makes sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah. So if you're sensitive and like, no, I don't have green hair, that's crazy. If you react that way, it'd be like, what? Why are you reacting that way? Because I must have touched something in you that you really have a sensitivity to. And we need to look within ourselves, not blame somebody else, take 100% responsibility and discover, why is it that they're telling me that? Why is it that they're getting that feeling?
Well, and that's, that's the hardest part, is to step back and ask that question, right? Because that really requires a kind of a self-reflective confidence that you may not like the answer, but the better thing is to know what the answer is.
And when you have that answer, here's the good thing. You have two choices. You either do something to change it, or you're content with having that answer and you're going to continue to be that way. Only two choices, my friends. Any last words in the last few seconds?
I do not have green hair. I do not have green hair.
Okay, Sam, I am.
Dr. Seuss moment coming on.
No,
this
having flashbacks.
I think that your responsibility was where we started. 100% responsibility for things. I think accepting that first seems like it's kind of like the first step. Like I'm going to take full responsibility for myself and my actions, and then moving forward, the rest gets a little easier because now I can talk to you about, what can I do to take control of this and make the outcome a better outcome. Yeah,
and it all goes back to awareness. So
and not having fear.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, Vince, thank you so much. This has been such a great time with you. Thank you all for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Lorianne, and he's
Vince Perrotta.
Good for you. I hope we've earned the privilege of your time. Again, thank you for being here. Look for us every Saturday at 3 p.m. at JBC Broadcasting or on iHeartRadio. Until next time, I am Lorianne Casdia and
Vince Perrotta.
Play a higher role, serve a higher purpose, show up for you, and show up
big.
It was awesome. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Vince.